Well, school board director. There's really not much I can do outside of the school board, the school setting. But one of the things that I would want to do is to make sure that the funds that we have inside the school district are allocated not towards spending lots of money on tests that don't really matter much and that end up hurting kids of color, but are directed towards programs that will help kids. My experience as a special education teacher working with minority kids, especially in the schools that I was at, I've really learned an awful lot about some of the things that go into why kids aren't doing well. And the current debate about that's even put up by people that say, well, you have low expectations, everybody can achieve. Well, they haven't seen a kid sitting in the MSP crying because he got beaten up last night, or you haven't had to pay out of pocket for a child who had no money for food for the week. And these are real issues, and I think our concentration on tests, we're missing the point here. That 44% of kids in this district are on free and reduced lunch, and we need to help them out.
We have tough economic times, and we have tough times for many of our students. We know that far too many of our students aren't making it out of high school, and that is tragic, especially for kids of color and kids from low-income families. So we need to focus the resources on making sure that all kids have the opportunity to succeed. And that's what I've done on the school board in Seattle. We put more money proportionally into kids who come from low-income families or from immigrant families, and I think that's right. It's the right thing to do. We need to focus on strengthening our schools so that the outcomes are fair and positive for all of our kids, no matter what neighborhood they come from, no matter what family circumstance they happen to come from as well.
First of all, we have to be sure no more money is lost in hidden agendas, in bad real estate deals. We need to be sure all of our resources are going towards helping students learn. We need to get rid of our one-size-fits-all approach in the district and change it to a success-for-all agenda where we're meeting the individual needs of all students, whether they're English language learners or recent immigrants or high achievers or struggling students. We need to provide very effective remediation, very effective acceleration. Basically, we need to support the educational goals of all students. We need to intervene as soon as they start to struggle and provide them with the support they need. We need to be sure that teachers have curricula that they can use to teach all students. We can't have curricula that discriminate against students based on language or any other issues.
So I've served for the last 2 years as the chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, and one of the things that I did in my role was led the board through an exercise to establish our guiding principles. And our guiding principles talk first and foremost about making sure there are appropriate and sustainable resources in our classroom, in part to enable innovation, but also just to make sure that we get basic services to students. And so as a part of that, our board has made that a priority and has ensured and worked with staff to make that happen, and I'm proud of that. I would say that as it relates to these three groups, one of the key things that we have done, also as part of our budget process, we have a strategic plan, and we went through line item by line item and items that were aligned particularly to English language learning programs, our world school. We made sure to openly discuss them, and we worked to protect them, and were successful in doing so. Similarly, minority business, I would say that we have worked hard to ensure that they continue to have opportunities inside of Seattle Public Schools.
I would work with the other members of the board and the district employees to ensure that the various funding sources that are intended to serve the specific populations are actually going to those rather than pooled into a general fund and use discretion as applying them to serve the students of color. And particularly when regards to some issues of the bilingual center and education that has not, I felt, been given the appropriate services and resources it should. I want to make certain that whatever's happening there gets cleared up and the money starts to flow to serve those students. It has been a passion of mine, and I've served, as my record will show, for students employed when I was in the CL schools as well as my career outside of it. And I read budgets well. I work well with people on funding to make certain that there isn't any questionable issues on where the money may go and how those are done, as well as people serving them are the top quality people to serve those students.
Well, I'm running for school board, and so that really is beyond the scope of what we're going to be dealing with. But obviously, there are very serious issues with people of color, especially having to do with the achievement gap. There are there's a kind of a mentality or a culture in the school district that is basically a history of failure. And the current board member, the incumbency, and certainly the woman that I'm running against, Sherry Carr, is too complicit in this history of failure over the last 10 years. The decision we're going to be making, the next board is going to be making, the most important decision we're going to be making is to hire a new superintendent. And it's important that we really clean house, that we remove the people who have been complicit in the failure of the last 10 years, and that you really consider some other alternatives. I'm a teacher. My wife is a special ed teacher. I'm on the faculty at the University of Washington.
So school board, there are a number of different ways that can be accomplished. Number one, we need to work with our state legislature to make sure that they are fully funding education, because I don't believe that we are right now. And our school district needs to be an even stronger advocate than it has right now. Within our own community, we need to double down on the south end of our city and communities of poverty in both the northeast and the northwest area of town. That means direct interventions for struggling students. That means actually being able to articulate programs where we make sure that kids are able to read on target by grade 3. That affects especially our ELL families, English language learner families. They're not getting a strong start in our schools, and then they're not able to achieve the potential that they all have longer. But our school district at present does not articulate and fully fund those programs to make sure that every kid has a great start. Further, although it's not within our purview, we need to be strong advocates for 0 to 5 education too, so our kids come into school with the right start.
That's really hard because of what's happening, especially in the field of education, because we're facing cuts, class sizes are definitely going to go up. One of the things that I think is key here is the Family and Education Levy, which does help do some of the wraparound programs for students who need backup, and so that's going to be one place where we definitely need to be supporting that levy. But even that is not going to be enough. We're going to have to start working at the legislature. The school board has got to send more than just one person to the legislature. We've got to be talking to people about the problems that the kids are facing in the schools. One of the things that I think is really important is the support for English as a second language learners. What the Seattle Public Schools does is they put them in the DOC for a year and then they're supposed to be fluent. It just doesn't happen that way. I mean, I've worked with the deaf and hard of hearing, and it takes a long time to teach English to someone who's never heard it before.
I think there are 3 things that we can do to make sure of that. One is to keep our focus on the classroom, helping teachers teach and students learn. I think the second thing is to make sure that as a director that I have a direct conduit to the various communities out there, whether it be our Somali elders, whether it be our Hmong groups, all of those groups, that I go and visit with them, and instead of saying, here I am, say, what can I do to help you? I think that's the second thing. And the third thing is I think it's important to make sure that all of our kids have really solid opportunities regardless of the neighborhoods that they live in. It should not be a matter of economics of where you live, but that the whole system supports you.
First of all, I think that the school district deserves a full audit of what they're spending because they are top-heavy in administration. And I'm in my daughter's school, I'm in other schools every day. These teachers are working hard, paying for things with their own resources for nothing. My vision, if I'm elected to school board, is I would like to start parental committees in every school, and not necessarily the PTA, because PTAs are pretty strong. But I want to hear from people who have real problems, real things that are going on, and if we have to almost play Amish Village in order to catch up with everyone else, I mean, that's what we're going to have to do. I mean, no one has any money anymore except for the top 5 on Wall Street, and it's got to stop. Everyone agrees it's got to stop, but no one knows how to stop it. So until the community bands together or has a leader that holds them in esteem and says, you're powerful, you can do this, you can control your children's destiny, it's not going to happen. And what we need is a person to do that, and I'm that person.
As a school board candidate, I don't have a lot of control over funding. However, I believe very strongly that the community owns the schools, and so it will be my job to reach out to every community within the district and to evoke their voices, their opinions, their concerns, so that we on the board can address the concerns of the community. And that's the piece that I think has been lacking up until now.